Yeah. I wonder where it was.
I'm sure I'm voting on it.
Everybody gets quiet. when
Yeah.
they-
See me now?
Yes, I can. Colors and everything, your socks look really good.
I reuse don't help. No, it's fine.
Are you sure? I can have next. I have next.
Well,
That's the agenda. But besides
do
that.
that.
I align them.
Wow.
Like 3 or 4.
They were.
The other day.
Yeah,
Other clocks at the same time.
they're about a half a minute off.
We should get.
You want 3 o'clock, say 7 o'clock, and that's back, all this meeting to order. So I'll rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The roll call.
Don Leo.
Here.
Jack Cobbs. Matt McGrath.
Here.
Nancy Rundell.
Here.
And Jamie Melky.
Here.
We do have a forum.
Yes. Citizens comment, if you've got something that's not on the agenda, this would be your opportunity. Lisa?
Lisa Nichols, 638 West Bluff Drive. Usually I'm here about sidewalks, but today I'd like to talk to you about term limits for all the city boards and commissions. Our city council has 2-year terms and members can serve 3 terms, and then they must take a term off. Parks and Recreation Board have 2-year terms. Tree and Advisory Board have 3-year terms. Harbor Commission has 4-year terms. Planning Commission has 3-year terms, and the DDA has 4-year terms, and all of those have no term limits. I feel that we are seeing more citizen interest and involvement. Giving more citizens the opportunity to get involved will be positive for our city and reflect our changing demographics. Term limits need to take into account the span of the term. For example, the DDA has 4-year terms. If we made the term limit the same as the city council, members being allowed to serve 3 terms, they would be able to serve on that board for 12 years. The Parks and Rec term is 2 years. If we allowed 3 terms for that board, members would be able to serve for 6 years. I feel that any term limit over 10 years is too long. Taking a term off is a good time for members to re-energize and refocus. We need to give qualified citizens the ability to serve if they have an interest, an expertise, and/or a passion. Getting more citizens involved in our city workings is a win-win for all. Thank you.
Yeah. Might be something we want to look at someday.
Yep, I can look at it. Just a note on that is, I know the couple of them, like the planning commission, DDA, are follow state statute, so I don't know if that necessarily prohibits them from having term limits, but the terms, the 4-year terms are, the length are determined by statute. I don't know if they restrict or allow, but I can look into it.
I think it's worth looking into.
Mhm. Good. Good. Anyone else for public comment?
there's anyone on Zoom, please raise the Zoom hand and I'll unmute you. I have a few people on. See any hands raised?
Let's move right into the consent agenda. Any public comment? So. Comments from the table?
No, look reasonable to me.
I think it's good.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Matt O'Gara,
Yes.
John Cox,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
motion carried.
Talk about Prospect Street.
Okay, so we received another request for the city to vacate a street, and this is really not a real street, it's an unimproved street. It's labeled as a street on the old flats, but it's on those flats, it's called Prospect Street. This is the yellow line you see on your map. It runs, it's the border between City Harbor Springs and West Traverse Township, between State Street and Ann Street. So it's just northern boundary of city limits at Layton Park. The requesters are Thomas and Rebecca Frescone. They've surveyed their neighbors, and that information is in the packet about their opinion on vacating. And seems like for the most part, all of those were pretty positive and for vacating it. We did not get specific reasons as to why they want to do this, but you see in Jeff's memo, he goes a little detail about the process for vacating. And of course, we had this come up a couple months ago, I believe, in Layton Park as well, like on one of the alleys. So really, this process is for the council. At this point, the citizens have requested it. Now it's a council option to discuss whether or not we want to consider vacating it as required by the charter. That council must consider it.
I'm sorry, where is it again?
This is in Layton Park, which is, so it runs west to east from Ann Street to State Street, the northern, on the border with West Traverse Township. So, yeah, kind of almost across from Fairview Plaza there.
Separates Harbor Springs from Evergreen Ridge.
Okay, so way north of.
Yeah. Perry Farm is to the west there, Evergreen's to the north. The school and Fairview is to the east right there.
Yeah. Any public comment?
They decided to do it.
Yeah, if they, yeah.
I guess my only comment would be, what's the reasoning for,
What,
you don't know the reasoning?
Oh, worked on in the last home. And I'm the third generation that's lived there. And there's never been a street. And they've spoken that there most likely won't ever be a street there. So I would like to add that to my property if that is acceptable, if they would like to abandon it, because I'd like to increase my land if I'm able.
there are no plans that we have to use that as a street. It's been discussed theoretically if we would ever approach the township and connect this road here to
I was just
Evergreen.
gonna ask, is there
Yeah.
ever been a chance to tie Evergreen into?
It's, I think it was,
That's where it touches.
I think that at one point where we didn't want to see it connect because of the flow of traffic, that all those people that live there instead of going to State Street, then they will use Layton Park. And I think at a time when that was we purposely added stuff to make sure that cars can't cross over.
Yeah, because Harrison Street would become their new access to town. So, yeah, high traffic, so.
Make it easier for me to get out of Franklin Park and work.
But yeah, theoretically, that's, I mean, it would be a real easy thing to do. I mean, well, I won't say a real easy thing, but physically, logistically, as far as the roads they connect, I mean, it's a matter of just
So if we abandon it, all those people would gain, what, 30 feet of property?
Less
Less than that.
Less than 30.
It's different, and I think it seems like maybe 25.
Yeah.
Right. I think it starts out like at 27 or something and then moves down smaller.
Yeah, as you go from west to east, it's hard to see here, but it seems like it narrows for some odd reason. The right of way, quote unquote, the street narrows, and that's as a result of here near State Streets, the surveys that were done show that for some reason, those property owners had acquired.
At
Part of
one
it.
point in
I'm
time,
not
we had
sure
a
why.
meth head at 5 a.m. drive and park their vehicle on that little spot there with,
Because technically it is a road.
yeah. And I mean, if I could put a stone there or something to stop, that's my property, I could put a stone or something there so somebody couldn't drive on it and smoke meth at 5 a.m. You know, logically. That's just like my back window, in my bedroom.
I am always hesitant to let go of city property myself. I just, I know it's not improved. I went up there to look. I thought I knew where it was, but I went up and looked, and Jeff's suggestion was if we did want to let it go to keep those road right of ways. And I don't like to see city property go away, just as a general rule. I just think once it's gone, it's gone. And I think it would make it, if we did decide we wanted to explore with Evergreen Ridge something, it would make it more difficult. I think if that was private property all along there. So I personally don't really, I'm never in favor of letting go of city property. So.
I tend to agree. Once it's gone, it's gone. Now, I was not aware of the history and, you know, how it might be used. But the city could put up a barrier at either end. To keep traffic from going in there, certainly. But I don't know that I'm in favor of giving them city property.
I do have a question about that since we're discussing. On a couple of streets down, I don't forget which one, there's like the boulders that they put up or whatever to keep people from going
That's
down there.
Harrison.
The Harrison there, would they be able to do that on the other, or you guys be able to do that on the other streets to keep that from?
I would think.
I think the whole idea of that was to keep it from people start having high traffic going through the city neighborhoods.
Was that's where Evergreen Ridge comes at the end of Harrison, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But there is somebody that cleared out that path behind their house there on Washington, on the other side in the township.
On that property, it's bumped up to their property. They took out all that tree area, a lot of the tree areas.
But I don't know if their goal is to try to use that to get down that street or what.
Oh, you're talking about the city property, they shouldn't have taken them out. I mean,
No, it's not. So I do know a little bit about this. I think they had approached the city with a question about whether they have a driveway that goes to Evergreen. They also wanted to see if they could loop into the, to connect to Air. And we basically told them that we wouldn't do that, but if they wanted to come to council to request, then they could, but we, based on our rules and our look at it, it just wouldn't make sense for them to township resident hook in when they already have a driveway going out that way. But so yeah, that we were approaching about that. And that was their intention to see if we could.
But the trees that were removed
They were
were
not,
their property.
they were not city property. I think Jeff went up there and looked at it.
I would think we could put some boulders, if that's an issue for you, obviously, that's not okay. And you think the city could put some boulders there as people
Yeah.
are driving.
I'll talk with Lucas and Kyle and see
Yeah.
what can be done
About
about that.
I have to recuse myself from this
Oh, yeah,
because I
right.
own one of the pieces of property. And people own pieces of property. Actually, my only issue would be if we would keep the right of ways. Assume we would,
The north and south.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If there's anyone online who has a comment, please raise your hand. And as Jim Raymer pointed out last time, if this is something the council wants to approve, we would have to have a hearing about it, public hearing, so we'd have to notice it. But if it's not something the council wants to entertain further, then there's no need for a public hearing.
I think we have the right of way, something, I don't have a problem with it, it's never gonna be an east-west road.
I mean, I just have a fear a road will get put there someday and then I'm gonna have, you know, traffic behind my house. I don't know that there's actually enough property there to put a road technically, if there's only like 27 feet to the most at Ann Street.
You know, a road, from my understanding, I was actually just talking about this with Lucas about the width of a road. I think 21 feet is the width of a road as per specs. So
2021.
it could get tight, but I mean, theoretically, we have no plans. Like I said, I don't think we have, you know, any future plans on putting anything there, but can't predict the city's needs. in the
The fact that
future.
we can't think of a need for it today doesn't mean there will be. Keeping it as a 27-foot green space at the north of the town.
You guys for now.
You need a motion?
I would think that we would need a motion if we wanted to move forward with it. If there was no consensus to do such, then I don't know that we would need a motion to not do anything.
Or make a motion to not do anything? Doesn't sound, yeah.
No action at this time.
By consensus, no action taken.
Although if there's a problem to be solved by putting a barrier to keep cars from going on it, that's a perfectly reasonable request.
What do I do to proceed with that?
Well, you can just come see me or we can make a meeting with Lucas Banerjee, our public works director, works director. See what can be done about that. And if there ever is any in the future plans to put any kind of road or improvement there, that's something that would go through probably a significant public process. So you would know about it, but you probably wouldn't because it wouldn't probably happen anytime soon. So I just don't see it.
Whoever buys it from our children.
Not our TID. So.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks for your effort.
And thank you for considering the borders for that too. We appreciate that.
Is the meth smoker a recent thing or?
It was not this past summer, but the summer before that. And we did call the police, of course, but they just literally drove right behind the pine trees behind her house. And it was actually
I
our,
owned it without our dogs smelling them out.
yeah.
We had our windows open,
So. Yep.
but thankfully they woke us up and we seen it, so. And I don't want enough had 20 feet from my head. I mean, that's not something I desire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item 3B is setting of the Marina waterfront rates for 2024. The Harbor Commission reviewed the waterfront rates at their last meeting, which was last week, and recommended the following for council to approve. A 3% increase for seasonal dock slips and seasonal moorings, And I show the increase from what it was in 2023 to 2024. Seasonal dinghy storage and kayak storage. Seasonal dinghy storage for non-seasonal mooring holders, as well as kayak storage, that to increase by $10 from $215 to $225. Then the commercial city business permit to increase by $15, and the commercial non-city business permit to increase by $20 from $600 to $620. All the other rates that they discussed, they're proposing to stay the same for now. And basically these changes, these increases were made just to keep in line with some of the expected inflationary increases.
Public comment?
Yes, please. I feel that whatever rate increase is agreed upon, it should be applied consistently across the various items being considered for 2024. Rate increases commensurate with the current rate of inflation, which is 3.7%, were discussed for the seasonal dock slips and moorings. After some discussion and a vote, the Harbor Commission agreed upon a 3% rate for these two items. However, instead of applying that same 3% rate increase to kayak storage and the launch permits for the city and non-city businesses, they decided on $10 increase for kayaks, which is 4.7%. They did a $15 increase for the commercial city businesses, which is approximately 3.7%, and a $20 increase for the commercial non-city business, which is approximately 3.5%. I think any rate increase should be consistent for all the marina and waterfront rates being considered for 2024. So 3% for the kayak storage and for the launch permits. Thank you.
Well, David?
I was just also wondering, is it needed every year? You know, I noticed at the Harbor Commission meeting, we talked about how our rates are far and above percentage wise with any other marinas in the area locally already as it is. So I feel it might be interesting to let it run for a year or so without having to have an annual increase every year and see if they catch up and it becomes more competitive. And as far as the pricing in the entire area, for one, and I mean, do we just per record need to increase that annually? Or, you know, and especially for the seasonal, why is the seasonal different than the transient? You know, why wouldn't they want to increase transient when you want to kind of take care of your seasonal people, which are local residents for the most part, generally speaking?
Bartlett, you have anything to contribute?
You guys read the minutes of the meeting. I'm here to answer questions if you have them. To clarify the seasonal rate increase, there were actually a couple of votes. The first one was a 5% increase, which did not pass. Then there was a motion for a 3% increase, which passed, but not unanimously on that. So that's the one that carried the day on it.
Yeah, remind me on the transient rates, I was there, but I can't remember, we kept them at the same level, correct? The state sets the levels and we didn't increase the transient.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
There are multiple rate schedules the state allows us to charge.
Right.
The state allows us to charge no more than they say for transient and a minimum amount for seasonal, which we greatly, as David points out, exceed on that. There was one other category in the transient rate that we could have gone to, but we've been aggressive over the last 2 years about bringing that transient rate up. And there were 3 different categories between where Toski as a local competitor, so to speak, was and where we are now. So the thought was we would stay where we were because the next step up was well above inflation. And we had been aggressive in our rates in the past on that, so. That's why there was no motion.
And we did have some empty transient slips this summer, correct?
We had a few after the 4th of July, which
Okay.
is not normal for us.
Right.
So, but I don't think it was rate related. It may have been access, whatever. But, we did bounce back for the rest of the season on that.
And the launch rent can't go up. That's locked at $5 a launch by the state. Am I correct?
We could petition them for that, but
Right.
nobody at the table felt there was a reason
Right.
to do that. The logic there over the years has been to try and keep that as a economical access point for
Lots of
folks.
folks, yeah,
To use that, and that is the most highly used local access point.
by far.
By
Yeah.
far,
by far.
So council could take these one by one or as a group, depends on how.
Yeah.
you feel.
We don't fit.
I'm comfortable with it all. I'm comfortable with it all.
Yeah, so the moorings and dock slips seem fine. There's enough demand for those who charge whatever we want for them, sadly.
Exactly. Which was brought up at the meeting that you can charge anything you want, but should you?
Right.
Yeah.
I
It's kind
agree
of like
with that.
the Irish's years ago, they put it up, well, they end up having a boatyard full of disgruntled customers. But they know they're gonna get it, because even if they raised it by $10,000, there's plenty of millionaires that are waiting in line.
Right,
Like with all our other rates too, one of the things we have to consider from the city's perspective is, are we keeping up with the cost of operations? And so we've seen that.
Bothers me a little bit, because the kayaks are so low maintenance for anybody, really. And I know we have a wait list, I think there's 42 people on the wait list or something, but again, like I said at the meeting, just because we can raise it, should we, when the kayaks really are low maintenance. And I understand it's only, what is it, $10 or something, but even so, it sends a message to the folks that use it.
yeah, I'd say if I was gonna get rid of one, it'd be the kayak
Yeah.
storage, and I'd almost like to see the commercial ones increase
A little bit more.
more.
Yeah.
Because they do put a lot of wear and tear on.
And those commercial rates don't include the valet boats. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim. I think I've got this right. Because all the valet boats have their own tags.
Right.
So that's really the boats that the commercial folks put in for their own needs. Am I right, Jim?
Plus, the operator has to have a commercial permit to operate the valet service.
Right.
And just for the record, we have been aggressive in raising the commercial rates for Fort Park use down there. So, whatever.
I think they've almost doubled in the last 2 or 3 years, haven't they?
They went up a couple years ago substantially. I remember that. Yeah.
I think it was 2 years ago, we had a very
Yeah.
lengthy discussion on all that stuff.
But they do get passed on to the customers. I mean, when they're, when we up those, that somebody.
No matter what we do, they're gonna get passed on to our customers. That's not gonna change.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
In terms
running,
of the valets, I'm sure that just gets passed on to the individuals, and they spread that out over the whole clientele.
Right.
I love to see the kayak stays, but that's a Nancy thing. I just think-
Well, if council has a decision to piecemeal it or something, maybe we could pick out something that you didn't want to approve the rest of the rate schedule with the exception of A or whatever you come up with. Make it a little cleaner.
Want a motion?
Yeah.
You know, I will.
Go ahead, you go ahead and do it.
I'd make a motion that we approve the new waterfront rates, excluding kayak storage, keeping that same at $2.15.
I'll second.
I will, since we're talking rate fees and schedules, I'll do a roll call. Matt Bulgara,
Yes.
John Cups,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell.
Yes,
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
and John Leo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. Went on to item 3C is sidewalk bid evaluation and selection. So this is kind of a twofold topic here. One is we solicited bids for the replacement of sidewalks. For 2024, we have probably we're estimating about $35,000 to operate with 2024. So we're going to look at probably a few different, at least 2 or 3 different sidewalks around town. The first one is along Spring Street, just north of Lake that leads to the boardwalk. This is one that we've received several complaints about, and it's been in disrepair for a while. It's now, especially the boardwalk's back reopened, it's going to see much more heavy traffic. We had 2 bids for it. One was Cups Masonry for about $8,500, and then one was from Tri-County for about $25,000. There's a wide difference in quotes. We expected it to be around $10,000. So Tri-County was off by a lot. Not sure why, but well, they did break it out, but just not sure why their estimate was much different. But based on the quotes, John, Cups Masonry is the low bidder. So when we get to that point, staff recommends per our policy as we go with the low bidder. The other discussion about this is a project implication, and this sidewalk here, in order to meet city specs and city standards, needs to be widened. So as it comes from the boardwalk here, it's pretty much at the correct standard, and then because of the property lines, it narrows as you get to this building right here, and it's quite narrow from there to the street. So in order to be the correct width, which I believe is 5 feet, I think, we'd have to widen out this way, which would even make it more difficult for cars to pass through here. So it would necessitate removing of these 3 parking spaces here along Spring Street. Right now, as it is, it's very difficult for 2 cars to come in and out of there. We've had reports of people driving on the sidewalk, for example, when one car is coming this way and another car is coming out.
Well, if cars are parked there, you can't get 2 vehicles there.
Yeah, you cannot. No, you cannot. So we've had, that's. This parking lot here, Spring Street, was built in 2017, 2018. I think we paved it. And obviously added a lot of spaces, and that's what has increased the amount of use coming into this area, whereas before it wasn't as heavily trafficked with vehicles. So that is the drawback, is we would lose 3 parking spaces. But if you're going to build it, we have to build it to code, to our specs, and that's what will happen.
So can you, I'm sorry, do you have a pointer or something? I couldn't really see on the screen what you were talking.
The sidewalks in the shaded area of the building.
Yeah, it's really hard to see with this GIS.
That has to be widened is what you're saying.
Yes, so it needs to be fixed and widened, and
Oh.
this is narrow, very narrow,
Oh, I
so
know.
these 3
Yeah.
spots right here. are The ones,
So there's a requirement if we fix it. to
well,
make
that's
it-
our city specs or city codes, yeah.
We can't just replace, well, if you just replaced it, you wouldn't solve the problem with the traffic anyway.
Still is in. So, I'm sorry, if you mind if I ask Kathy Monchel, is it going all the way up to the boardwalk though?
The sidewalk,
This,
No.
yeah, but there's no issue with anywhere
From the
except for
parking lot
along the
entrance,
building,
it's
right?
just in front of the building.
yeah, this is the issue, this is where the issue is, yeah.
But the whole sidewalk the whole sidewalk has to be done or no?
No.
Oh,
Just
And
okay.
this area.
we've replaced that over the last handful of years with all the.
This is relatively new, right here.
It's just a section in front of the building.
So you're saying if you improved it, you would have to bring it up to spec.
Yes,
If you fixed it, you would have to fix it up to spec.
Correct.
think we put it off once before.
When we did the parking lot.
We talked about doing, we did the parking lot,
Right.
but for whatever reason,
Didn't happen.
no.
I don't think we need to do it. I mean, we need to do it, right?
The sidewalk definitely,
Another question, is that parking lot to the east of that building, is that, city?
No, this is private, this is the city.
Oh, back there's, right, so you couldn't steal anything from that private one to make that road a little wider
No.
and be able to keep your three cities parking spots.
I think that, like, the sidewalk definitely needs to be repaired there, but I feel like every time we have a meeting, we're giving up more parking spots. And maybe it's time to explore if there's other options of putting parking elsewhere. Or even just advertising, like I walked by there today and I don't even think there's a sign like all over town that says that's a public lot back there. Or like advertise that you can park at the top of the boardwalk and walk down the boardwalk and it's just as close as parking on Third Street.
Parking committee.
I don't even just-
Well, I think we have to do that, right? I mean, we have to do it.
We have to do that, but I think we do need to explore
Yeah.
more parking.
Encourage people to walk.
The one upside in my mind, that would be unfortunately giving up a couple parking spots to have an improved sidewalk, but from a health
Yeah.
standpoint, getting the fire truck, getting an ambulance to the boardwalk, God forbid
Right.
somebody falls. You'd be hard pressed right now to get through there with an ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there were 3 cars parked there, you'd never get it.
So it's a very small silver lining, but
Depends if you're the person being picked up.
Right.
Michael Behrman, is that a curb right now that borders the sidewalk? Okay, so basically the curb would then be extended into the road, if you will.
About 2 feet,
Okay,
It's 2 feet.
give or take.
Give or take.
so that would, it would come out on the corner of Third and Spring as well. It would have,
Yeah, that walk,
That
the way it's
walk.
designed, arches around,
right, yeah.
so it has an ADA.
With that
access.
pad, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a motion to,
Well, if you're okay with the project, we just need a motion to accept the low bidder. I mean, that's,
I think we need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think also separate from that is, discussing, Jamie did have a recommendation about encouraging parking elsewhere, potentially a public parking sign, if that's a public spot, public lot. So that's a separate, I would say a separate discussion, but
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it is worth a discussion with the private property owner that owns that other parking lot, if you could make a bid to, get it, whatever, a couple, 4 or 5 feet for the city to be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish here, making a safer sidewalk and a safe through street. I mean, basically, there's some landscaping, I know, between the sidewalk on that side and where the parking lot is.
Retaining wall,
And it's,
it's a retaining wall,
right, and it's slightly elevated, right?
about 5 feet.
So I don't know if that's worth a discussion with the property owner to make it better for everyone involved.
And I
'Cause I'm
believe
sure they have a problem accessing that too, because that's how they get in their parking lot, right? Just having to go up that street, and that way, because like she said, your parking spaces are very valuable nowadays. Be ashamed to lose 3 more of them.
Mossberg owns that, and I know the bottom half, I believe, is leased to the bank. The bank employees on park in there.
so I mean, potentially if we were to get more land here, they would potentially lose parking.
They're gonna lose.
I mean, it's,
Yeah,
that's,
And it turned into a much bigger project. And
Yeah.
Replace that retaining wall and widen.
oh god, yeah.
Those 3 spaces would be pretty expensive
Yeah.
to reconstruct.
So,
Part of the parking committee was, and I did share the notes with Jamie, but when the parking committee was formed, they had several suggestions, one of them is, shared parking lots, and, we do have one with the Methodist Church as a shared parking lot as one of these issues, so that's something that, we could also further try to look at. There's only so many, parking is it's a valuable commodity, and, they do lease out, a lot of private lots lease out to other people, but that's something we can explore as well, which was something that the parking committee asked. And we did renew our Methodist Church parking lot lease, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe, but part of that deal was we, repaved it, so it cost us.
well, Rob's not doing anything with the old Harbor Lake building right now. I mean, that's just a catch-all for the project that they're doing. So that might be something, I leave maybe half the parking lot. Might be something to work on down the road.
Something that I think he did mention before too, so.
Well, I say I'll make a motion that we accept.
Yeah, that's a recusal.
So, use yourself.
Make it verbal.
I need to recuse myself.
Thank you. Well, I'll make a motion that we accept Tubbs Masonry bid to repair the sidewalk.
Second.
John Leo,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Jamie Belkey,
Yes.
Matt Rivera.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And yeah, I guess we should, I don't know about reinstating the parking committee, but we should at least get a sign there.
Yeah.
That it's public parking.
I have to check with Lucas. There was a sign.
I thought we did that when we put in.
Yeah, I would assume there was.
There might be one at the entrance. I didn't actually walk
Well, I
there,
don't know if I
but
got
there
put back
should
up.
be, okay, there should be one
There's
like,
one there
on
when it
Dirt
started
Street.
construction and it got taken down. I don't know if it ever got put back up.
It should be at the corner.
it should be,
It's at
yeah.
the entrance of the parking lot.
Possibly even on Main Street.
It should be on like Main or Third,
Yeah.
and even a sign that says like there's parking up above too. Because all of the school spots aren't used
In the summer.
in the summer, and it's a quick walk now that we have a boardwalk.
All right, I'll discuss that with Lucas and Kyle and then probably bring something back for a location. I mean, signage can be a little. Controversial.
Work on that PR campaign to get people to walk. Right, like,
Well, that was one of the committee's recommendations, was to encourage people to park further and walk.
We need to get some city bikes down here, so people park down here and take bikes down and then return them. Scooter, yeah, scooters,
Yeah,
but
electric
even
scooters.
just bicycles, it would be.
convert half the parking spots to scooter only.
Yeah.
It
And there's
doesn't
so
solve
much
the
parking.
problem of
So much parking down there.
Parking.
It's empty all the time. There's gotta be a way. to do
like the
something.
single complaint I hear the most about in the summer is there's no parking,
Yet we still seem to manage to get through decade after decade.
Somehow,
but it's getting busier and busier.
Like I said, kid got a junk car. Who wanted to advertise,
and
shuttling
even-
people.
yeah, somebody needs to do a business, shuttle people from down here to downtown.
We want people to use that nice, fancy, beautiful new boardwalk.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
A lot of people.
Big, great.
Okay, move on. I think that's it. I will move on to the city manager's report. I didn't include it in here, but we did receive, the county did approve the bike path easement that we were looking for around Bay Bluffs property. That's so that our extension of the little Traverse Wheelway project will begin with Harbor Inc. They'll be spearheading a fundraising campaign, so you'll hear more about that. But so we do have that easement. Just signed it Friday, so yeah, that's good news. So we can move that project that's been on back burner for a while. Not the back burner, but a lot of issues with the state and the underpass. So we're finally excited to get moving on that one. As a reminder, elections are on Tuesday, November 7th. We do have, of course, 2 council members running for 2 council seats, but just as importantly, we have a ballot issue on the sale of city-owned property in Little Traverse Township, currently leased land to Jervis B. Webb. I had a question of council. I know it's, the day before elections, but if you wanted me to go through that presentation and summary of the sale of the land at the next council meeting, it's going to be at noon on Monday. But, or not. We put the presentation on the website. We've had not one, but maybe one question. I've had one email about it.
Is the ballot, the sample ballot language, can that be in the paper? Where more people would see it than on
I
the
don't know about in
website?
the paper, there's some
I don't know
wonky
if it,
rules about that. It's on our website. It's on the county website, or it should be.
I talked to someone today and yesterday, and they didn't even know it was gonna be on the ballot. I gave them a big spiel about it, but I just wonder if there's any other way, because a lot of folks don't look at the website. And
I
they
will
just-
find that out tomorrow.
Can we share that, like social media and stuff like that?
Somehow we need to
Yeah.
get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Somebody was like,
probably out
what is
there.
that? I'm like, oh. Yeah,
Social media can promote it that way. Or I say,
if we can put it in Harbor Light, I mean, if it's legal to do that, I think that's a good way to get it out to folks that we don't use social media.
I won't make any decisions unless I check with the state
I
on
know.
election stuff.
Well, that's good. We don't want to mess it up, but
Resubmit his editorial.
yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
has it been a month? I
Yeah, it was
put it
last
in
month.
again. That was a great letter.
That was last month.
Yeah.
I can do that.
I'm sure Charles would put it back in.
Fall Fest has been rescheduled to October 21st, Saturday. The weather made it difficult, the wind and the rain, but it looks like it might rain again Saturday, but we're hoping. We did meet, as we talked about last council meeting, a gentleman who was interested in potentially selling or giving some portion of his land to the city to put the substation on. We met with him. One of his requests, or him and his wife, one of their requests was to for the city to bury those 46 kV lines. So what Michael McGee, our electrical engineer, is doing is he's providing some cost estimates and just giving us a rough idea of what it could cost us to do that compared to the other sites we've looked at, the public sites that we've looked at for the substation. So hoping to have that for the November 6th council meeting, that information. And I would present that information to council, then council can decide whether or not it's still worth pursuing the private parcel or just sticking with the public parcel.
And this would be a side-by-side comparison of the two locations.
Yep. And also some different alternatives for bringing the circuits down through there as well,
And breaking out the cost of the wall,
of the wall.
of the wall.
I was just gonna ask, are they gonna have that comparison for the brick or the?
We won't have that, what the cost of the wall will be per se. I mean, we've have an estimate between $700,000 and $800,000, but we won't be able to get any more fine.
But it'll be broken out of the overall
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
It's the only way to do apples to apples.
Other news, the water tank project at Kiwanis Park, the recoating, the repainting is complete, so that's good news. I've had a few meetings, of course, my MPPA meeting in Lansing. We did have a meeting, Jim Raymer and I, with the Historical Society, and there are a couple of members of their board about renewing the lease with Old City Hall, so it looks like we made some progress there, and that we'll come back to council soon with a lease for the Historical Society to renew that. Their lease with the Old City Hall. We're wrapping up police union contract negotiations. We just had our last, I think was our last meeting, and now we're just getting the draft of the contract ready. So I expect in the next month or so, we might have a contract for council to review. And then I did have a CCE 911 executive committee meeting. One of the topics there is they're trying to implement an updated software program, and it's getting very expensive, so.
It always is.
Yeah. There's DDA and Harbor Commission meeting, as you know, Harbor Commission focused on the rates, but they also did a good update about from the Ford Park Committee about, just exploring options redesign options for Ford Park, looking at the issues right now. Nothing concrete, probably won't be for a while, but just starting to get the ball rolling on what improvements can be made at Ford Park, especially related to circulation and parking, loading and unloading. Then DDA had meeting, talked about Third Street lighting, Merchants Walkway, and some other DDA topics that have been on the agenda for a while now. And that's all I have for now. I will bring to council next meeting, the number of board and commission openings that we'll be having December. So we'll start advertising those more heavily now that there'll be terms up. Of course, anyone can renew to serve on a board or commission, but doesn't mean it's automatic reappointment. But so we'll have the total number of board seats that are open at the next council meeting, so people can start considering applying for that.
Yeah, and the council rep on ZBA, I won't be on the council, therefore I can't be the council representative. I'm willing to stay on ZBA. And Victor suggested I fill out an application, which I will do. The council will have to send someone.
Okay. I won't be here at that first meeting in November. I'll be traveling. So you guys are on your own. Any new or old business?
Can I just clarify, I'm going to look into two things. One is looking at the term limits on boards, the number of terms you can serve, and then signage and other parking solutions, potentially.
In boulders.
Oh, and boulders. Yeah,
Boulders,
yeah.
Matt, Boulder.
If there's nothing further, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.